Once upon a time in a small village, there lived a woman named Amara. Amara was known throughout the village for her beauty and grace. Amara's heart harbored a darkness few could see. She had a daughter named Zara, a child born from a love that had long since faded away. From the moment Zara entered the world, Amara felt a deep resentment toward her. Zara's father, a kind-hearted man, had left Amara when Zara was a baby, and Amara blamed Zara for his departure. She believed that if Zara had never been born, her life would have been different and happier perhaps. As a little girl, Zara was full of life. She had a radiant smile and an infectious laugh, but Amara never smiled back. One day, as Zara tugged at her mother's dress, her eyes wide with excitement, she asked,
"Mama, can we go to the market together?"
Amara's expression hardened.
"Go ask someone else,"
she replied coldly, turning her back on the little girl. Zara's smile faded, but she said nothing, retreating to a corner to play by herself. When Zara's siblings were born, a brother and a sister, Amara's neglect turned into something more sinister. At that young age, Zara was forced to care for her younger siblings, cooking for them, dressing them, and putting them to bed, while Amira lavished attention on the two younger children. On Zara's 7th birthday, she watched as her mother baked a cake, her heart swelling with hope. But when the cake was ready, Amara handed it to her younger brother instead.
"Mama, it's my birthday,"
Zara whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Amara looked at her with disdain.
"You don't deserve it,"
she said, her voice cold as ice.
"Go to your room now. You will not even have a taste of it."
As Zara grew older, Amara married a man named Baraka. He was a stern and controlling man who had a little interest in Zara, only reinforcing Amara's disdain. One evening after Zara had spent hours cleaning the house, Baraka came home and inspected her work.
"You call this clean?"
he barked, clicking a speck of dust across the floor.
"Useless girl."
Amara, who had been watching from the doorway, smirked.
"She's always been lazy,"
she added,
"just like her father."
Zara bit her lip, holding back her tears.
"I am sorry,"
she whispered. But neither of them paid attention of what she said. In her teenage years, Zara tried desperately to please her mother. She excelled in her studies, hoping that her achievements would win her mother's approval. One day, she proudly showed Amara her report card, which was filled with high marks.
"Look, Mama,"
Zara said, her voice trembling with hope.
"I got the highest grade in my class."
Amara glanced at the paper unimpressed.
"And what does that change?"
she said, looking at her with disdain.
"You think good grades will make you less of a burden? You'll never be anything but disappointment."
Zara's heart broke at those words. She had tried so hard, but nothing she did was ever enough. The love she had once yearned for turned into a cold resolve to escape the life that had been thrust upon her. When Zara completed her education, she knew she had to leave. One day, she graduated and she found her mother in kitchen chopping vegetables.
"Mama,"
Zara began, her voice steady.
"I am leaving."
Amara didn't look up from her task.
"Good,"
she said flatly.
"Don't ever come back."
Zara swallowed the lump in her throat.
"I won't,"
she replied, turning to walk out of the house. As she reached the door, she paused, hoping for a word, a sign, anything that would show her mother cared. But there was nothing. The sound of the knife hitting the chopping board was the only response. Years passed and Zara built a life for herself in a distant city. She became a successful saleswoman, loved by the people around her and respected by her peers. One day, a colleague asked her about her family.
I don't have one.
Zara said softly, her heart heavy with the truth.
Not anymore.
In the village, Amara often wondered what had become of her firstborn. One evening, as she sat by the fire, her younger daughter asked,
Mama, why did Zara leave?
Amara stared into the flames, her heart heavy with a mix of emotions she couldn't name.
Because she was never meant to stay,
she replied, but her voice lacked the conviction it once had. Years passed since Zara left the village, but life for Amara had taken a turn she never expected. Her marriage to Baraka, the man she once thought would provide her with the stability and comfort she desired, began to crumble. Baraka, who had once been stern and controlling, now showed his cruelty in new ways. He had taken a liking to a young girl in the village, a girl half Amara's age, and the whispers of this infidelity reached Amara's ears. One evening, Amara confronted him, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear.
Baraka,
she began, standing in the doorway of the small home.
I've heard the rumors. They say you are spending time with that girl, Wanjiko. Is it true?
Baraka didn't even look up from his chair.
What if it is?
He replied coldly, his voice void of any affection.
You've got no right to question me.
I am your wife,
Amara cried, her voice rising in desperation.
You can't just do this to me.
Baraka's eyes narrowed as he stood up, towering over her.
Wife?
He sneered.
You think you've been a wife to me? All you've done is to bring misery into this house, just like you did to that poor girl Zara.
Amara flinched at the mention of her daughter's name.
What does Zara have to do with this?
Baraka's hand shot out, grabbing her by the wrist and pulling her close. His breath was hot against her face as he spat.
You are a heartless woman, Amara. I have never seen someone so cold. You bullied your own child and drove her away. And now you wonder why I don't want you anymore?
Tears welled up in Amara's eyes as she struggled to flee herself. I didn't, she began, but Baraka cut her off.
Didn't what? He groaned. Didn't hate her? Didn't make her life a living hell? Don't lie to me, Amara. You are getting what you deserve.
With that, he shoved her away and Amara stumbled back, clenching her wrist. The tears she had held back for so long finally began to fall, but Baraka showed no mercy. He advanced on her, raising his hand.
Don't you dare speak to me again about that girl,
he warned, his voice dangerously low.
If you ever talk about Wajiko or Zara again, you will regret it.
Amara's heart pounded in her chest as she nodded, too afraid to speak. That night, as she lay in bed, bruised and broken, guilt began to creep into her heart. But it wasn't that kind of guilt that came from true remorse, no. Amara's pain came from the realization that Baraka no longer wanted her. She was no longer the woman he desired, and it burned her soul. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house grew unbearable. Baraka became more brazen with his affair, and Amara's fear turned into desperation. One day after Baraka had been out all along with Wanjiko, Amara finally broke down.
Baraka,
She begged, falling to her knees in front of him as he prepared to leave again.
please don't do this. I am your wife. I can change. I'll be better.
Baraka looked down at her with contempt.
It's too late for that,
He said, his voice devoid of any emotion.
I have already made my decision. I am divorcing you.
The words hit Amara like a physical blow.
No, please, don't do this.
She cried, grabbing onto his leg.
Where will I go? What will I do?
That's your problem, not mine.
Baraka said coldly, shaking her off.
I am marrying Wanjiku, and you are no longer welcomed here.
With that, he turned and walked out of the house, leaving Amara crumpled on the floor, her world shattered. For days she wandered the village in daze, her once beautiful face now edged with sorrow and regret. The villagers who had once envied her now pitied her, whispering behind her back as she passed. In her darkest moment, Amara realized that she had nowhere to turn to. Her husband had cast her aside, and her children were very young to take care of her. But there was one person who might help her, if only she could find her, Zara.